Hello again. If you missed my last review, it was a Crazy Art colored pencils from Walmart. I attempted to draw Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy, but I had to abort it because the pencils were utter garbage. So now I am reviewing Staedtler colored pencils and hopefully finishing the drawing. I'm using the 24 set and the colors seem very reasonable. Basically most colors you would want for a beginning artist. So if they blend well and layer well, this is all you'll really need. They come sharpened, they are triangular in shape, so if you're clumsy like myself, this is great since they're unlikely to roll off the table. It's a little awkward to sharpen them at first, but no real issues with sharpening and no broken leads. First impressions, they seem a bit chalky or dry. Definitely don't go on that smooth. You can layer them though. They're a bit crumbly at the tip. This seems more associated with their chalky nature rather than the leads being weak. So now I'm going to continue where I left off with the Star-Lord drawing. I will focus on getting the eyes laid out, and I immediately notice that I really like these pencils compared to the Crazy Arts. They don't break for one. I can layer them and the tips can really get in some fine detail. The choice of colors is nice and I'm able to layer them to get the tones I want. A couple more things to mention. The pencils have no color labels on them, but the colors are laid out plain enough that I don't think labels are required. There is mention on the box that the wood comes from well-managed forests. The pencils are made in Indonesia and they conform to Astm standards. They are artist tested and are Art and Creative Materials Institute certified. Slightly more impressive than the BS on the Crazy Art box. If you recall from my Crazy Art review, I struggled with broken leads and quickly messed up the lips because I kept switching pencils until I found one that wouldn't break. So I feel I'm starting off with a slightly flawed drawing, but I want to finish it anyway. Rather than tan, I'm using more of a peach or fleshy color for the skin tones. I'm using an assortment of colors for the eyes from yellow, blue, green, and light brown. In the whites, I'm using some blue, flesh, pink, and gray. The eyes are not that intense in color, but I'm pretty happy with how they turn out. The sharp tips on the Staedtler pencils really allow you to focus on the details. I now start to work on the mouth and the chin area, and it's the first place where I start to have my doubts about the pencils. I notice that the pencils are not really that intense, and I have to spend quite a bit of time on each section to darken things up. And even then, the tones are not that dark as I'm still working on the lighter side of the face. I quickly sketch in the ear as I notice the few trace lines that I have are almost all gone. I fill in the nose a bit more, and then I add another layer to the chin and pull the black pencil out to draw on the stubble. I've layered 2 or 3 colors in the chin, and it becomes quite difficult to mark in the stubble. It's almost as if I've damaged the tooth of the paper with the chalky pencils. I decide to change things up a bit and work with some different colors. So on to the jacket. My goal here is to see if I can obtain the intense red for certain sections of the jacket. There are 3 tones of red to the set. One seems quite dark, but I'm really not getting the intensity that I need. I fill in the headphones and then back to the stubble. This seems to be going reasonably well, but I still feel everything is taking me longer than it should. At this point, I ponder whether my initial satisfaction with these pencils is because the last pencils I used were Crazy Art pencils, which frustrated the hell out of me. I move on to the darker side of the face, and this is where the pencils fail. The shaded side of his face is blacked out in areas, with sections of his neck a dark brown with hints of red. I realize these pencils are not likely to produce those colors. In the end, the black and dark brown are not going to give me the tones I want for the hair and shaded areas, and the reds aren't working for the jacket. So I decide to call it, but I want to try to place these pencils against other budget pencils I have used. I go find my Hilroy pencils and see if the Staedtler are as chalky and dry as the Hilroy. Well, about 30 seconds of using Hilroy, and it's clear the Staedtler are the better pencil. But what about Crayola? Using the Crayola, I start on a section of the jacket, and it's clear I will get the intense red I want. I sketch in a bit of the hair, and the browns should be okay as well. As I'm working along, I do notice something new with the Crayola. I've broken a lead. Should I be critical? Not at all. I've done at least 3 drawings with these pencils that are almost a year old, and my kids have been using them for the better part of 6 months. These pencils have taken unknown amounts of abuse, so the broken leads seem quite reasonable at this point. I've done a review of the 24 pack of Crayolas, and for the price, which is generally less than $5, I still haven't found a better pencil crayon for my style of drawing. They blend well, go on fairly smooth, you can layer them, and they're pretty durable. The colors are intense enough, and the selection of colors for the 24 pack has worked quite well for the drawings I have done. Now I've had some questions on the Crayolas. For instance, why wouldn't a professional artist use them? One thing I've noticed is that they do produce a wax bloom, which is more evident on the darker colors. Another weakness is that the pencils are not light fast. I'm conducting light fast tests on them now, and even with a few months exposure in a sunlit room, the pink has almost faded completely. As much as I enjoy using them, there are other colored pencils out there that I would choose over Crayolas. Of course, these pencils are usually quite a bit more expensive. Using the Crayolas, the drawing is going a lot quicker, in part because the Crayolas go on smoother and produce darker tones, and partly because I'm rushing the drawing. A drawing that I've used 4 different types of colored pencils, I don't expect to be my best work. So I don't mind rushing things and putting more of a focus on improving my speed. When filling in the hair, I've messed things up a bit, and it looks like I have a massive wave in the middle of his hair, which isn't evidence in the reference image. My shading on the right cheek could have been darker, and the cheekbone should be higher. For the little raccoon, I'm not trying to follow the reference image too closely because I know that I won't get the colors dark enough, and it's very difficult for me to leave white sections for the whiskers. So to avoid this, I just go lightly with the fur colors. I use brown, light brown, black, gray, and a little bit of light blue and golden yellow. In the end, I thought the little raccoon turned out pretty good, especially since I was worried about this part of the drawing. So back to the jacket. This did prove to be a bit of a trial, and one that I was happier to complete with the Crayolas. The Staedtler really would have struggled with this part. I find for clothing, especially with colors like red or blue, you really need to be able to apply several layers. The Staedtler seemed to be limited to 3 or 4. To finish up the Staedtler colored pencil review, I will have to give them 2.5 stars out of 5. You can layer them, but I struggled with any layers beyond 3 or 4. Because they are chalky, they don't blend that well. You can produce nice detailed drawings with them, since they keep a sharp tip if you don't press too hard. They are durable, with no broken leads during the review, although the tips do crumble a bit or flake from time to time. The triangular shape is great, since it prevents them from rolling off the table and doesn't really interfere with their use. The main weakness, and this is a big weakness with the pencils, of course, is the intensity of the colors and the poor blendability. Would I recommend someone buying them? No. Not if you can get Crayolas for the same or similar price, especially if you are serious about drawing. They might make good pencils for your kids because of the durability. For myself, I would probably go buy another set of Crayolas before I tried another drawing with the Staedtler. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.